So, do you guys remember this?
Oh my god, is that a shaggy fire beast golem monster? And does that man have a bigger sword? And does that man charge his bigger sword? And good lord, this looks gorgeous! He's got a bow and that's a bloody thunder dragon! And a sky whale! What am I witnessing?
Right? It's been a while since Honor of Kings World got revealed, teased, and, well, a third word to mean the same thing as those two words. A game by TV Studios, actually the same ones that are currently working on the Monster Hunter official collaboration Capcom mobile game, though perhaps it makes sense they're also working on what looks like a very Hunter-y-esque, or at least, you know, action RPG against big beastie experience. And while we got a lot of flash, there was little substance in the initial reveal. It looked gorgeous, it still looks gorgeous, but of course there was no way to know just how curated it was. So we got excited but not carried away. We got hopeful but tempered that expectation. At very worst, it looked like it was going to be a really interesting game, and at best, it might be a truly awesome experience. But of course, we needed some actual gameplay to know any more. And now, that's exactly what we have gotten. So let's go through Honor of Kings World and its brand new gameplay trailer, because yeah, this is genuinely looking really, really good. It's too early to say, of course, what, you know, the game's going to kind of be like in a interaction user experience sense, you know, microtransactions, menus, the actual functions, the systems, but in terms of the actual world and how you operate in it, yeah, we're looking pretty swish. It looks like a big world, to be fair, opening with quite the zoom over the landscape up into the mountains. It seems like the vistas are quite there, for you will eventually be able to get here. As we get some story set up about some mysterious relic, remember the past. The world is called Tixia, and all is not what it seems. There is a recurring dream, and there is a lot of meaning to be found within it. But of course, the story is one thing. What we care about here is how good does it actually look. So we get a few of our characters, we get little snippets of the world, we get this lovely overhead shot, and we immediately see some glider action, because of course that is the contractual obligation of every open world game, which this seems to be, is to have some form of gliding functionality. We get swimming, which is also really neat. The more ways of traversal and the more methods to explore, always the better. And then we actually get a little bit of a sort of underground cavern dungeon-y type-esque looking thing, and then this big-ass tree root, which also looks awesome, and then this more deserty cave. Basically, the variety of where we'll be spending our time seems really quite impressive, as does how pretty it all looks. I'm a big fan of this almost soft art style that gives it a lot of detail and a lot of color, but it's not busy trying to be too like hyper realistic. I very much do enjoy it. And of course, the greatest confirmation to get is there will be butterflies in the game. On a more serious note then, we see a little bit of what looks like magical armor being equipped to our main character, which is really, really exciting. Like, as a concept, just giving yourself this ethereal energy-based defense as he goes to work with his sword, and we get the proper bit of combat. And it looks fluid, it looks flashy, it looks smooth. It's hard to tell completely without actually playing it, but it even looks like there's some proper weight to it. The actual clang of the sword. The deuce as it hits. Yeah, that's got some meat on the bone, and that's really quite cool to see. Obviously, there's not much more to dig into with this, it's just slashing a few basic enemies, but in those basic enemies look quite interesting, as does this little tree golem, as we see a bow weapon with lots of rapid shots, lots of flashy effects, and generally a little bit of acrobaticness too, which is what I always like to see on any kind of bow-esque archetype in a game like this, as well as this awesome little split shot that splinters in the air and all homes in. Yeah, that really really is quite fun, and indeed, tree golem thing also is quite fun, as is this purple-tinged panther-esque lion, and our friend who's facing it, who seems to be all about teleporting around and being very, very much hard to catch. This is really neat to see, you know, it's an actual creature being actually fought with a weapon, and that's kind of what we're into, right? That's what we want. And then suddenly, out of nowhere, it becomes Fire Panther, and it's flamethrowering out of its tail, which is really, really cool to see, and also leaving splodges of fire on the ground, and generally it just seems like the battlefield itself is very much going to be a part of the combat. And then we get our tree friend again, but this time being fought by a jetpack minigun guy. Now, I didn't expect there to be jetpack minigun guy in this game, but hey, this is another one of our ranged options then, it would seem. Lots of rapid firepower, lots of heavy firepower, missiles as well, and actually firing from the air, staying in there with the jets. This seems like a very alternate way to go about things compared to, of course, you know, sword stabby. And it looks like we do have an ultimate attack that's kind of reminiscent of
justice reigns from above.
But I'm sure that's entirely coincidence. Firing a hailstorm of missiles from on high isn't exactly the most unique thing, but it is very badass, as is the kind of artillery lobbing, very much like cluster ammo, which is really, really neat too. Jewel blading guy makes his return as he air juggles this poor unfortunate soul, which again is just looking very swish, literally, in the case of his sword, and he has a lot of control from the looks of things actually in the air, firing out a blade which also propels him an extra bit back. I mean, it just seems really high octane, you know, teleporting back to him for the smackdown. I mean, it definitely has got the visuals down. Whether that actually turns into a satisfying gameplay experience is obviously harder to tell from a trailer like this. Again, it obviously looks fairly curated, though definitely actual gameplay. All I can say is I do think it's closer to being a slam dunk than a complete dud. Okay, maybe slam dunk was a little bit excessive. I just kind of wanted it to work with the big super sword bash down, which I really like, obviously, because big swords are the best weapon in any game like this. And then we get giant tree beetle, which is just brilliant. Damn, that is intimidating and awesome all at the same time. Back to our story, Drowning Man, and all is well with the world as we get a little hint of desert. So that then is our first proper little look at Honor of Kings World. The kind of environments we'll be in, which are varied, the scope of the world, which looks massive, the type of enemies, which also look very much varied, as do the weapons. The combat itself looks like there's going to be a lot going on in terms of visual spectacle, but of course it's harder to tell how actually satisfying it will be to play, but it's definitely satisfying to watch. I am a sucker for lots of special effects, lots of lights going off, lots of flashes and boom, and yeah, it kind of does it for me. So disconnecting for anything outside of the game, the company, or Tencent, or any of the worries that might be invoked there, the actual pure game itself, at least on this early stage, from now, the initial reveal trailer and this gameplay trailer, I mean, I'm definitely interested. I feel like you can't really not be. It's an action RPG with really kind of, I mean, the best word is just cool-looking combat against, again, the best word is cool-looking creatures and enemies in an, again, very cool-looking world. Of course, there remains a lot more to find out, a lot more to see. It is, of course, worth tempering any expectations or excitement, but I definitely don't think there is any harm in being hopeful. In going, yeah, I mean, what we've been shown, no matter how carefully we've been shown it, what we have been shown is very, very neat, and something I'd certainly like to get my hands on, if only to see how I like it myself, and that's really where it's at. I'm glad that this is a thing that's existing, and the more games where you're in a kind of RPG action-y scenario against creature-y things, the more I am happy. So here's hoping for the best, and it is good to see this at least, and know that it isn't dead or otherwise forgotten. Let me know what you guys are thinking, of course, but for now, like if you enjoyed this, subscribe and hit the bell for more, consider supporting the future channel on Patreon down below, and until we meet again, a goodbye.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.